And she was. And she was. Okay. Hello and welcome to another thing. Why? Because this is the successful attempt, which appears to be all the time, of using the Android phone, Samsung Android phone, as a web camera, using the application on the PC called DroidCam, and DroidCam on the Android phone from the Play Store. Clearly, this is a superior alternative to any wired situation you may have. Yes, this is wireless. It is coming across through the IP network. The way DroidCam works is it gives you an IP address when you start up the application. And as it's using the so-called web camera protocols, it is seen by Windows through the IP address, and you simply add it into whatever program you're using for recording video. Like I am using, this is a program called SplitCam. I have found that SplitCam is sufficient, and as a matter of fact, probably the go-to app on the PC, because it seems to be the most stable, although lately it has been choking on the web, it has been choking on the GoPro app. It seems to be constantly looking for the GoPro camera. And when it says there's an issue with the camera, because the camera's not on, it chokes and crashes. No explanation other than to simply uninstall the GoPro app from the PC, which I'm not going to do. So I get past the crashes of SplitCam when it starts up looking for that damn GoPro, and I simply cancel it quickly enough that it doesn't seem to interfere with the operation of the program. So that's what we're looking at here. This is, oh, and by the way, I have completed the creation of the better walls and the 45-degree angles on the 3D printer. By the way, before I leave this shot, over on the left is a suitable 3D printed pine tree. I say suitable because there's a lot of them that aren't. What does that mean? It means that the tree behind it is a good example. You know, I'm wondering, can I zoom in? I'm not going to screw with it. Anyway, the tree behind it was 3D printed and painted green. Now, what's wrong with that one? Well, there's nothing wrong with it, aside from the fact it's a good size. The tree in front is a smaller size and prints faster. But as you can see, it consists of a pattern of globules around a cone, or shaped into a cone overall shape. Well, these globules, each one of them, remember, this is not a resin printer. This is a filament printer. So a moving head extruding the plastic in a pattern or following the code that creates the image and object. But as you can imagine here, look how often, look how much work that poor little print head has to go through. I mean, it's going zip, 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 all over the place. Well, I mean, in the shape that's been programmed. But look how much it has to move, right? Look at the trees behind it. Now, those are trees from Safari, which I think is now Wild something or other. Those are purchased trees, and those are the trees that I recommend everybody get for this scale, because they're absolutely fantastic. And they're indestructible. They're plastic, solid, injection molded, soft rubber, relatively soft rubber. So these are 3D printed trees, and here's the difference, right? 3D printed trees are fine, but it's really hard. It's really hard plastic. What's the difference? Well, there's not much difference except for the fact that it's hard. It's just hard plastic. Especially when it's fully cured with about 15, maybe 10 minutes after a print is done and removed from the print table. The printer, the 3D printer. And by the way, if anybody wants to know, probably doesn't, I use an Ender 3 Pro, version 2 I think it's called. And yes, that's right, it's not a very complicated printer. It was cheap, and I learned it and got the right settings finally after 2 years of having it, maybe 3 years. And now I'm ready to move on. Okay, foreground is a little tiny attack boat, or a patrol boat, if you will. No doubt out of scale. Look at the size of the 10mm troops behind it. But if you want to look at it this way, that is a torpedo-firing patrol boat with a turreted gun in the front. And it could sit one person, but technically speaking, I think it's supposed to be a little larger. I think it's supposed to be like, twice that long. But it's epic scale is what they call it, so it's like possibly 7-8 millimeter, and the troops are 10 millimeter. So you can see a guy fitting in that cockpit relatively understandably, but still, it's about 1/3 too small. It should be larger. And then there's my little port, I should say, dock that I printed. Found it again on Thingiverse, and I printed this dock. Having manipulated some of it to create those stanchions, the posts that are in the water, and that's what that is. So it's very simple. Not trying to be overly fancy and not trying to take up too much time in printing. So that's what we're looking at now. On the far right of this image, before I move the camera, I want you to see the 10mm infantry we first started with, and we have several platoons. They're blocky and they're nice. But the guys that are immediately next to them are very much better. They're very thin and proper. And they are a little bit shorter than 10. We'll call them 9mm. They could be 10mm. And the guys on the right side of this image might be a little too blocky. At least, let's put it this way. They're 10mm, but they're blocky. They're fat. They're like the fat guy in, what was that old video game? You fat guys playing hockey. Yeah, it was Nintendo, wasn't it? Was it? Yeah, Nintendo hockey. Oh, wait, it wasn't Nintendo. Atari, no. Anyway, it was a hockey game where the characters were cartoonish, and these are the fat guys. All right, and then just to the left of the guys in the middle, the stand in the middle, we have a newer print of other troops, and it's getting better. We're finding troops that are usable with not much support. You can see that we put supports on some of those infantry. Okay, moving camera. Okay, so the 3D printed wall connectors, and they're glued. This is all glued together. Normally, slightly glued. I mean, it is removable, but they kept on falling over, and I'm like, I'm done with this. I just glued a small tack of glue. As a matter of fact, I could have used sticky tack. I shouldn't have done the glue, damn it. Sticky tack would have been fine. Just a little globule of sticky tack wherever I needed to hold the damn thing together. It's a much better idea. All right, I'll see if I can get this apart so it's transportable. Anyway, there's our big facility. And the Hoth gun turret on top of it, on top of the tower. Now, what is this thing? Oh, Terry, what is this building? This building is a Micro Machines building, and I don't have any idea. It looks like a fire station. All right, and it's got some embellishments on there from stuff I printed. And the tower is supposed to be a helicopter tower, but obviously it's just fanciful. And that little balcony going around is way too small for anybody to stand on, even though you can see the double doors. But it's incorrect. Anyway, doesn't matter. It'll work, and it was $1 on eBay. So, I mean, right? Better than anything I could have folded up out of paper, cardboard, foam core, whatever. But here's the thing, you see? When you get something like this, you can see how it's made. And then you can make other things. Like, I haven't even looked on Thingiverse for Micro Machine stuff yet. I'm just way too, that's another rabbit hole. Okay? That's what I'm talking about. Alright, so anyway, the gun turrets up there, we remember we did the die rolling to see where the gun turrets are going to be. So one is up there on top of the facility, and there's a piping thing there you can see on the right side of the building below the glass windows, which is a very nice building, by the way, I have to say. And there's a piping going into the ground. Why? Because the intention was for other pipes to come out of this area and be a potential objective. Maybe, is it mining? I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's a piping system that's coming in or out of the building. Who cares? Now, there's that door. You see that glass louvered door, the garage door? Well, is there something in there? No, but could there be? Yeah. Could that be the building that houses the Stryker vehicle? It could very well be. I didn't even think of that until just now. So yeah, could be. And now it makes me think, Jesus, you know what? I'm going to get another one of these buildings. Because it's actually perfect, right? Can you see a couple of these on the game table? I mean, that'd be awesome. Can a mech come out of there? No, unless the mech is laying down and they wheel it out. No, it's too short for anything like a mech. Could you make it taller? Yeah. See, now that, like as I'm saying, now that I know how these things are made, when you buy one, you say, oh, that's okay, wow, that's a lot of work. Yeah. There's a lot of work that went into these Micro Machine buildings. It's phenomenal. It's really shocking. So how could I make it for a mech? Like, how could this be a mech facility? Well, it's got to be taller. And so what was that? If I raise up the bottom of the building, it's going to make that tower even taller. Is that too tall? Yeah, kind of. Does it come apart? Yeah. Actually, I think it does. That red brick, or the red cube structure on top of the roof, I think that comes off, or at least it may have, or at least it can, because I know how these things are made now. I think I can wedge that thing off of there. And if the building gets taller, I don't want that tower to be so tall. So we'll see. But anyway, again, there's the reason for buying another one, right? But anyway, so raising it up on the bottom and then making it capable for having a mech go inside, and there's your mech repair facility interior. I mean, enclosed. We have mech repair facilities that are exterior, like out in the open, as like a rocket ship launching pad. We have several of those things. All right, so that is where we're at, and you see the infantry. You can decide which you think is best. On one hand, I like the chunky guys. They may paint up easier and better, but on the other hand, the thinner guys are more accurate. And actually, the thinner guys have better weapons, more realistic-looking weapons. The chunky guys are they're chunky. They're easy to move, and let's face it, because of Thingiverse, thank God for Thingiverse, we're able to get this stuff. If it wasn't for Thingiverse, none of this would happen. That's all I can say. So there we are, and we'll come back.